What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wednesday Night Mythic Conversations, a conversation I'm super amped up with for tonight. I'm super amped up for tonight. I'm so excited. I'm mixing up my words. I'm bumbling my words. Tonight, we're going to talk about Necronominus, the new wave from Four Horsemen Studios. I am so pumped to dig into these. I really wanted to talk about them last week, but last week was, really in the aftermath of Legions Con and everything. I wanted to spend some time talking about that and some of my immediate thoughts after the excitement of the weekend. So tonight, we're going to dig in one at a time to all of the different new figures. Going to tell you kind of my opinions on them. A lot of people ask me about customizing options, what I'm seeing in these figures, what the parts are going to be able to be used for, both from my vision as a customizer and my firsthand knowledge of the figures, being a member of the studio. I'll share some of those. I also have some behind the scenes stuff to share with you, answer some questions, hopefully clear up some questions you may have about the figures. We might run a little long tonight because we've got a lot to go over, but I'm sure you won't mind, right? I do want to start with just a couple quick pieces of housekeeping, couple quick pieces of news so everyone's on the same page. Thank you to everyone who hit up Legion Shop this past weekend. Last Friday, we did the sale for the online of the Furious 4 and the Unknown one. As expected, those went super fast, sold out of everything in a couple minutes. As we said in that post or in that listing, these will ship in approximately 3 weeks. So we hope to get those out probably by around the start of December. Those will be shipping. So some people may have gotten shipping notices yet. That's just because we're pre-printing some labels, getting things ready, but those will ship in the next few weeks. Additionally, talking about Legion Shop, Legion Shop is technically closed right now. We do have a sale drop this Friday of another exclusive, the ToyCon exclusive Plunderlings Drench Abyss figure. That is going to hit this Friday, very limited numbers. And then I think we're going to actually open up Legion Shop for regular again, probably on Black Friday. I'm not sure of the time yet, so I'll post that when we get closer. We got some leftovers from Legions Con. Basically, not really any new drops. There's nothing new in terms of new parts or whatever. We kind of really focused on Legions Con, but some of the stuff that we brought back from Legions Con with us, that will certainly hit the store. Of course, there are some customs from myself that I brought to Legions Con to sell at the Legion Shop table. The ones that didn't sell will hit the store. We've also picked up some collections over the past few months, so there's some really cool stuff to add to Legion Shop to the inventory as well. Super limited stuff, some like Grail ticket items, so I'm sure people are going to be excited about that. That is Legion Shop. Wolf King Customs, they are also doing a sale right now. If you were on their newsletter, they actually sent out a message today that they're doing a sale for people that couldn't come to Legions Con and take advantage of buying stuff in person, or maybe you did come to Legions Con and there was something you wanted that Len didn't bring. They're running a sale right now, I think through the end of the week, perhaps, where if you use the coupon code, the discount code Legions Con, they're going to actually give you free shipping. So it's almost as if you were there and you were picking it up. You won't have to pay for the shipping. A lot of cool stuff there. Some of my new kits, some of my new critters, the armadillo and the porcupine set. Those are both available, along with a number of other super cool things. So that's, of course, at Wolf King Customs. See what we're getting, what people are saying here in the comments. A lot of people talking about excited for this wave. Question Laura asked me about the book. So at Legions Con, I did a panel where we revealed the book. I am not going to be talking about the book tonight, but give you a little sneak peek. I'm off next week. Next week is the day before Thanksgiving. I always take that off to watch planes, trains, and automobiles with my family. But the week after Thanksgiving, when I come back, I will be redoing my panel. Well, not my panel, my presentation about the book project. I'll actually do that here right on the show. I'll show the same pages. I'll read the same content. So if you missed that the week after Thanksgiving, I'm going to do that here. Okay, let's see. Kirby, yes, I am doing well. I am rested and amped up for tonight. I'm feeling very, very good. Someone says I've had this window open since 9 o'clock this morning. That's funny. Excited for this content, this conversation tonight. I am excited as well. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to bring up my presentation. It's actually a lot of the same slides that we showed at G-Con. That's kind of one of the advantages of me doing this. I can use all the same content because I created all of it. So that works really well, right? So let me bring that up. A lot of what we're going to be doing tonight is going to be doing just this, actually looking at the slideshow. Okay, so here we go. So what I'm going to do is to go through this wave, I'm going to do all of the Order of Eathyron first, then I'm going to do the Congregation of Necronominus. So when we did the live broadcast for G-Con, we kind of jumped from one to another. I'm going to take it one group at a time. In addition to this, if you want other people's opinions on this wave, I definitely encourage you to check out the latest episode of Legions Cast. My friends Lord Steven and Legions Len were joined by Jesse Arnold. They did a great job. It was like a 2.5-hour broadcast. Great job of going through that entire wave and giving kind of their impressions of it. So I'm going to give you mine, but there are some good ones there as well. So the first one I'm going to talk about is, of course, Sir Elijah. So I'm going to read the bios for these characters as well for anyone that may have not tuned into G-Con and may have not got them there, and just to get us all on the same page. So Sir Elijah is a standard figure. He's going to be the $37 price point. He's a human character, and his role is a messenger. And obviously, these are all characters that are in the Order of Eathyron that we're starting with. So it says, raised on a farm on the open plains of Etheros, Sir Elijah grew up around horses, and he became an equestrian whose skills were second to none. It is therefore no surprise that this young man was eventually recruited into the ranks of the Templar emissaries. A subsect of the Templars of Eathyron, the emissaries travel the realm carrying important messages and items at the behest of their faction's leadership. In addition to his skills as a rider, Sir Elijah is also fluent in a variety of tongues and more than capable of defending himself and the important messages he carries. So super cool figure. Couple things in that bio that you're seeing. The Templars are a very, very popular group within Mythic Legions. A lot of people assume, and I heard Len on Legions Cast a few episodes ago mention that he always assumed that the Templars were like the foot soldiers, the front lines of the Order of Eathyron, and quite the contrary, they're not frontline soldiers at all. Their role is, the reason they're called Templars is they defend the Temple of Eathyron. So this is one of the structures in the kingdom of Etheros, and that is really where they are focused. If you read the lore, it talks a little bit about the fact that they've guarded that temple. They were eventually disbanded by some of the corrupt people that were trying to take over the faction, and then once Sir Gideon Heavensbrand rose back to power and reclaimed the Templar, the Order of Eathyron, he reinstated the Templar Order. So in this little bio here, we not only talk about the Templars, we learn of a new group of Templars, the Templar emissaries. So these are actually the characters, the Templars, that would be the ones you would see outside of the temple, because their job is to carry messages from the temple and from the leadership out to other people, other factions, whatever, other individuals that need to be communicated with. So a little bit different there. Let me go through this. So a couple things to know about this. I saw someone just asking what's under the soft goods. I'll talk about that in a moment. One of the things we highlighted on the show that is so important with this figure is this is a head to toe new knight build. Absolutely a new knight body. So the knight body, the original knight body that we've seen on so many figures since the beginning, even if it's not a knight, aspects of that knight body have been found on these other figures, right? Because the arms, the legs, the torsos, these have all been used. These library parts have been used on a number of other figures. What's great here is Eric had a chance to really redesign this body from the ground up. And unlike that first body, which was done, in clay and then cast, this was sculpted digitally from the ground up. So it really gave him the ability to do some cool things. One of the things we really wanted to do at G-Con that we were unable to do, we were actually hoping to have a test shot of this in hand. So we didn't mention this at the show, but the knight body was actually finished over the summer. So this was the first thing that Eric sculpted for the line. Not to say that he sculpted Sir Elijah first, but the base body, all the new parts, all the new armor pieces, that was the first stuff that he worked on. And he finished that over the summer. So we was unfortunately not able to accomplish this, but we had hoped to be able to have a shot of this injection molded plastic for G-Con so we could pose it and we could show people the new range of motion. Didn't happen, so we just had to explain what that new range of motion is. Let me go back and read these the comments in a few minutes as I talk about this part. One of the things that Eric wanted to do was really create, additional posability options without sacrificing the look of Legions. We've seen a lot of people over the years say, you guys should do double jointed elbows, you should do butterfly joints, you should do this and that. The reality is the toys that the studio are making are the toys they want to make. There's a certain look they're going for. Double jointed elbows are very, very cool for some figures. For Legions, it was decided that's not the style we're going for. So rather than, just do those things, just add those kinds of articulation that people are used to seeing, but which would change the sculptural look of the figures. Eric took this challenge on to himself to try to improve the posability while maintaining that Legion's aesthetic. So some of the stuff that he did here is there's a bit more of a cut under the arms, under the armpits. The way the arms, there's more range of motion. So what's going to happen with this is you're going to be able to get those two-handed poses. You're going to be able to hit some poses that the current Legion's Knight body is not able to hit. So kind of best of both worlds here. You're going to be able to get some of that additional range of motion, but it's not going to look like a totally different figure outside of what you already have for Legions. I think this new Knight body is a huge part of this wave. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Greg, I got something special for you when I get there. You worry, Greg. I'm happy you're tuned in tonight. Let's see. Brick something saying I was looking forward to this. Thank you very much for the kind words today on our post. We appreciate that. Curtis, Jeremy, do you contribute to these bios with your role, or is it all from Eric? I actually wrote all the bios for the All-Stars 5 wave and for this wave. So the way that it works, it's a little behind the scenes. I sit down with Eric. So for Necronominus, we sat down, Eric and myself, and we go through all the characters and we figure out what aspects we want to hit on. So some of them, like Necronominus, are very obvious. We know who Necronominus is. And it's just like, hey, what pieces do I have to really focus on for that bio? Other characters, they're their personality, their bio, the angle we use comes out of a conversation that we have and ideas that we both throw at each other. So Eric and I worked on these to come up with the framework, and then I go ahead and I flesh out all of the ideas that we talked about. Some of the ideas are things that I throw in there. When we get to Bishop, the whole thing about Bishop being lame and, Gideon praying over him, that was all stuff that I came up with just based on our conversation. So it's a little bit of both. Both have a role to play in that, but I'm super fortunate that I get to write a lot of this content now. I'm pretty much immersed in writing for this realm at this point, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah, bucket helmet's a great thought. I mean, a great add-on. I like that a lot. Let's see, go through these. Joe Vassapolo saying this is one of my new favorites. Not a big surprise. So, really cool thing about this character, you're gonna get that helmet there. So this head, this unmasked head, this is something that we showed off as a teaser at PowerCon this year, where we showed that chainmail cowl type piece, or headdress piece. That face plate is removable, and that's one of the things we were talking at PowerCon about, the idea of building systems, kind of like the pop out of the chest plates that pop out on some of the new figures. This face works similar, where this creates not only more flexibility for us to be able to do different faces officially at the studio, but it also kind of creates like a whole new customizing category for the 3D part shops to do. So, rather than having to print a whole head and use blue tack and all that stuff, you can use that chainmail head and just print that faceplate and pop it in, and you get the best of both worlds. You get a new look, but with some factory parts. And in this particular case, you get this head as well. So at the end of G-Con, we kind of gave the surprise that because the power of Necronominus is that he can use the God Raiser to raise characters up from the dead, a number of the hero characters in the wave also come with dead heads. So this is actually not a whole head, it's just a faceplate. So you can see here in the accessory shot, you get the helmet, you get the chainmail head with that Sir Elijah's face, and then you get another skull faceplate that can pop in instead of Sir Elijah's. Another important thing to point out here is those new weapons. So super excited about this. I did see a number of people asking or commenting about the way the shields work. So when we see the other figure, the other knight figure next, Sir Adalric, he's got a shield as well that's got that same centerpiece. That centerpiece comes out. So what it is if you ever had, like, say, the dwarf shield that's got like that disc in front and the disc pops out and the handle, if you put the disc in and you put the handle on, it holds it together. This works in a similar fashion. The new faction shields, like the ones that come with Attila Leoseer and Gorgo Aetherblade in the 2-pack, it's a shield that's got that big faction sculpted logo on it. The shield that's underneath that faction logo is the same shield that comes with Sir Adalric. It's a new sculpture. It's just replacing that big faction piece with this little plug here. So that's what we see, kind of like building another system here. But a really cool shield, that big kite shield we get here. We get that new hammer. We get that new sword. It actually does have a scabbard. It wasn't shot for this accessory shot here, but the scabbard does come as well. And then it's the same scabbard that we've seen before. But then we also have that new dagger with that scabbard. And it's got 2 sets of hands. So it's got the original, kind of articulated hands and the new joints as well. So that's a cool thing. I know that the new, wrist joints, that was introduced a few waves ago and fans love that. So we're seeing a lot more of that now. Close up of Sir Elijah's face and that beauty shot from Trevor 16 Shooter Williams. All these photos I'm showing today are by Trevor. Amazing, amazing work as always. Now, one other thing about this character, we should talk about those soft goods. So there is a piece of armor under that torso. When we get to Sir Adalric, the armor that Sir Adalric is wearing is the same one that is underneath Sir Elijah. So there are these premium soft goods, and the soft goods are two pieces. So that torso, it looks like one uniform piece, but that's what it looks like when it's all together. That chest piece there, if you pop this apart, there's almost like a shirt, kind of like a sleeveless shirt, I guess, that's over the torso. So that will hug that torso. And then around the waist, it's kind of like on the new Artemis silver cord figure. If you pop Artemis, her soft goods piece, it's got a little hole and it goes right over the ball peg. This is going to work the same way, but it creates that illusion when you put it together that it looks like one uniform piece. The nice thing about that is because it's not one uniform piece, you won't get it all bunching up when you try to move them. It's going to actually help with the articulation, but give you that illusion because the belts and everything separate it. It gives you that illusion that it's one contiguous piece. So very, very cool. Brand new knight body with this. You could take the soft goods off and use it as a regular knight, of course. It doesn't have a plastic loin piece, so you'd have to dig into your fodder bins for that. But anyone that wants to build out Templar ranks, this is one that I can see you going with some extras on. Anyone that just wants to build out new knights, this is going to be useful for that as well. And of course, all of these pieces are fully compatible with the rest of 1.0. So even if you just took the new arms and legs and popped that into existing torsos or something, you're going to be able to do that no problem. All of these parts are compatible. And then again, just out of the box, you've got one look here for this version for Sir Elijah. You've got the helmeted version, and you've got the skeleton. So even right out of the box, as is, you've got three different looks for Sir Elijah. I'm going to go look at some comments before I would move on here. Let's see. I was never an English lit major. No, I was not. A lot of comments, a lot of interaction today. Thank you all very much for that. We've got a number of people live in the chat. I'd greatly appreciate it if you took a moment, hit that like button, drop a comment in the comments after. That is always helpful to give the video a little boost. Okay, let's see. I went back far enough. Now I can go forward. Blaze say, I don't normally care for Templars, but I'm getting at least one of these guys. Yeah, I mean, he's a great figure. Templars, I like the Templars. They're not my favorite category either, but I absolutely love this one. Yes, Star, there is full armor under that torso. That was important because we had to tool something up under there. So, we didn't want to use one of the existing bodies because remember, Eric wanted to improve the articulation. So because it had to be tooled anyway, tooling it up so it was also usable for other characters, and we see it on Sir Adalric, so it gets used right away. That made a lot of sense. You know, if you're going to tool something, you might as well be able to use it. Curtis Ackerman saying, favorite figure of the wave and maybe my favorite figure in the line. Wow. Bold statement from Curtis there. We're going to need a tutorial on how to dirty up the soft goods. Yeah, you know what will probably work really well? Tea bags. So if you actually use tea bags, I've done this before when I did many years ago, a Tusken Raider costume. If you use tea bags, that's a great way to stain soft goods in a way that it looks somewhat organic and natural. And because you're using tea bags, it's not going to be a pattern or something. It's somewhat unpredictable, what actually makes it look really natural. I think that if you wanted this character to look like an undead Templar, shredding up some of those soft goods a little bit around the edges where the fraying would happen and using some tea bags to dirty it up naturally and stain it naturally, super easy, super good look. Okay, getting through these so I can go forward. So the next figure that I want to talk about here is Sir Adalric. He is also a standard figure at $37. So Elijah was 37, so is Adalric. He's a champion and also a human. As haughty and proud as he is wealthy, Sir Adalric is one of the richest individuals in Etheros. Having made his fortune in shipping, Sir Adalric's favor was coveted by the corrupt individuals who sought to gain control of the faction. He snubbed these advances, and he could not be bribed, for he had more riches than all of these corrupt politicians combined. Instead, Sir Adalric gave generously to the arts and to the charities of Etheros. Now that the order is back on the righteous path, this lavishly dressed knight uses his wealth and his sword arm to defend the cause of the crowned eagle. So, fun character here. This, I'm going to tell you right now, he's the sleeper. This is the figure that people are going to say, you know what? I don't really need extras of him, or maybe I don't even need that one. Everyone I talked to who saw this figure in the case at Legions Con said, oh my goodness, this figure looks so much better in person than I thought he did. And again, I'm not picking on Trevor with the photos. It's just a figure that looks really great in person. One funny note about his bio there, saying that he made his fortune in shipping. That was actually not a tongue-in-cheek joke about rising shipping prices. I was actually recently working on some content for the book project. And if you look at the map of Etheros, there's a large, section of it that borders the water. So part of Etheros, the southern ports of Etheros, are a very popular port, trading type area. It's where a lot of commerce happens. I had written that somewhat recently for the book, so I was thinking about the merchants of Etheros, and right from the beginning, when Eric and I were talking about this character, the fact that he is so lavishly dressed, we wanted him to be kind of rich and wealthy. That was one of the first things we threw out there. One of the first ideas is, okay, this guy, he's got some wealth, he's got some money. And then we talked about him being incorruptible, the fact that he couldn't be purchased, he couldn't be bribed, because he had so much money that you can't buy him off when he's got everything he wants. So we like that idea. How he made his fortune, I figured, well, I was thinking so much about the ports and about shipping. It made a lot of sense that he was, a merchant who was shipping products in to the kingdoms. It actually wasn't a tongue-in-cheek joke about shipping prices. Someone mentioned that today about this character, and I thought that was an interesting. So that is an interesting joke that I would have made, but in this case, I didn't even make it. So looking at this character here, a few things I'll point out. It's hard to see his torso the way that he's got the shield and everything, but the torso that he has under there, that is a factory. That's a plastic torso. Those are not soft goods. They're painted to look like enamel. This particular character, that's what we were going for, that like enamel type painted on the armor. Very, very bright, the blue and the white. But that is a fully sculpted chest, and that is the torso that is under the soft goods for Sir Elijah and actually for Sir Gideon as well. He's got this helmet. So you can see here, he's got the visor that comes up and the visor that comes down. It's kind of hinged. Totally cool look there. So you can display him either with it up or with it down. A few other notes on his pauldrons there. There's that symbol of the Order of Eathyron, and then on the other pauldron, there's a different kind of symbol. Those are all removable. Now, you're not going to remove them. If you remove them, it's going to be blank. It's going to look like it needs something. But the reason I'm saying they're removable is they were made to be modular. So those could be used in different configurations. For instance, we could pop that Order of Eathyron kind of shield piece off and just go with two of the more circular type pieces there. So we could use this armor in the future in other ways without it looking exactly like this. Again, Eric has been very, very focused on building these systems to have more long-term functionality for these characters. And then you can see a better shot there of that side. Another new weapon with this figure here, we get that mace. It's the same lower handle that we saw on Sir Elijah with his hammer, but it's got a mace topper instead of that hammer. And then that shield, that's what I was talking about. That shield, if you pop that center piece out, there's a hole there. That base shield is the same shield sculpture that came with the new Gorgo Aether Blade and Attila Leosair. The difference is that big giant crest goes there instead of this little placeholder. Super cool because you wouldn't know that. It like looks like a unique shield onto itself. Big giant plume, soft goods on this character. Again, new knight body. So the additional range of motion in the arms, in the legs, you get all of that on Sir Dalric. You also get the skull head. Now, one thing we didn't show really well at G-Con, but is kind of cool, is not only does this come with the new skull head, it comes with a new visor as well. That skull actually has like a scar across his eye. The new visor that he comes with has a cut right where that scar is. So the other visor is so nice and clean, it didn't make a lot of sense with this figure, with this skull. So it includes a second visor that actually has the metal like torn where the scar in the skull is, that like killing blow type thing. So I thought that was a nice, cool little attention to detail as well. Here's a look at his accessories. Again, you can see the pauldrons there, a couple sets of hands, the head with that skull piece there, and then you get the shield, the mace, the dagger with the sheath, and then that's a new spear topper. So it's the same handle that came with the old halberd weapon, but it's got a new spear topper on it to change that look up a little bit. Close up of the character's face there. New belts too, a lot of new belts in this wave, which as someone who always would mix and match those different belts and configurations to get new looks, I love the fact that we're getting all these new belts. And there we go, that glamour shot once again from Trevor Williams. Gonna go back and look at some of the comments. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Joe, this is one I figured you would love as well. This is really hitting up that that kind of heraldry type knight look. Let's see. Yeah, that teabag trick. I'll probably do a tutorial on that when these actually come out. Color palette's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Eric wanted something that had like a different look to it, something that really, really stood out, you know, different kinds of knights. Yeah, Hedgehog, I'm going to do a live reading of the book the week after Thanksgiving. So the week after Thanksgiving, the show that I do that Wednesday, I'm going to go through and do some similar to what I did at Legions Con. I'm going to show some of the pages and read some of that stuff. Okay, let's see. Awesome, Joe. I appreciate that. Yeah, I asked George for a stripped down shot of Bishop, actually. And someone else is here requesting that as well. Doozer, PayPal screwed the studio over a number of years ago, and as such, it is no longer an option for us to use. And that's by design. We don't want to use it after what they did. No new parts have made their way into my fodder bins. Joe has some new parts on his desk, I'm sure, but let's see. Okay. Yep, plume can be switched out. Absolutely. Joe said he will show that tomorrow. So again, another cool figure. Definitely, if you're into the knights, I mean, these first two figures right there, the Templar style knight, this more kind of rich style knight, lot to like right here. of course, now we're going to go big. So at the reveal special, we did Gideon next in terms of the good guys, but I want to save Gideon for the end of this. So we're going to go to Sir Ukzak next. This is an ogre scale figure. He comes in at a price point of $65, and he is a paladin. Once as evil and savage as the rest of the impure, the ogre named Ukzak was visited in his sleep by a vision of a golden bird wreathed in flames that cleansed rather than consumed. Waking from his dream, Ukzak immediately made his way to Eatheros. Seen as a threat and turned away, the ogre found a simple hut in the mountains. Here he made his home, combing over prayer books and collecting small trinkets left behind by a mystic who had found enlightenment many years prior. Travelers through the land told the strange tale of the remote hut and the devout ogre who now prayed to Eathyron. These tales eventually made their way to Sir Gideon Heavensbrand, and the leader of the order sought out the ogre and bade him return with him to the crown city. Today, Sir Ukzak is one of the most faithful and most powerful warriors fighting for the legions of light. So if you know this figure, you know that this one was named after my friend Brute Scale Greg, or I guess we have to call him Ogre Scale Greg now. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment, but let's look at this figure first. This is one of the first figures I saw from the wave. This was, printed out at the studio, and it was printed out obviously in, resin, gray resin. So I hadn't even seen the paints yet. Eric had mentioned that he wanted to do like a paladin, a pearlescent type look, similar to a Sir Ignatius and a Gadriel the Angel, but not exactly. This is not. If you put them all side by side, they're not the exact same color. This is in the same family. Certainly, it has a similar feel, but this guy has a color all his own. Interestingly, one of the first comments that I made about this character was he has a very gothic cathedral-like look to him. I saw a lot of similar forms that you see in architecture on certain cathedrals in his design. I immediately started thinking about the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, one of my favorite places I've ever visited. Incredibly cool place. And I was looking at this and I was seeing some of that same Gothic architecture. And it was interesting to say that to Eric because that's what he was going for. He hadn't said that to me, but I saw that in the sculpture and it delighted him that I said that because that's something that he was trying to achieve. So getting that unsolicited feedback let him know that he had hit that. When I first saw it, I didn't see the weapon. I just saw the figure, and then when I saw the weapon that he comes with, it was mind-blowing. It's huge. It is an absolutely gigantic hammer. If you were in the room at G-Con, Joe brought out this figure. Joe Vassopolo, he was the one that was going backstage and grabbing the figures to bring them out onto the display table. He brought out the figure, then he brought out the weapon, and it was like he was holding like a meat tenderizer. That's how big it was. It's absolutely huge weapon. You can see it there. And there's actually, when we look at the accessory shot, you can see the top of it. It's got this almost looks like Odin. That's what it reminded me of, an almost Odin-like character on the top of this hammer. Absolutely incredible figure here. Again, another one of the figures that comes with the dead head. So this character is an ogre, so it's got an ogre scale head that you can pop on as well, or it's got that fully helmeted head. So a lot of new parts on this. It's cool to actually, we've gotten a few ogres already, so to be able to see all of these new ogre parts, this is one that I'm personally super excited to mess around with, just because the ogre scale, unlike 1.0 or even 2.0, where we've gotten so many different body types, so many different, kinds of torsos and legs and arms and everything to mix and match. Ogre scale hasn't had as much variety so far. So looking at this and seeing almost a totally new set of ogre parts is very, very exciting. Of course, I mentioned that this was named after my friend, Greg. this here, Greg posted this on his Instagram a few weeks ago or a week or so ago. And this actually meant a lot to me. Look at that dude's face, seeing how happy he was. He looked like this all weekend, right? By the way, all weekend, you couldn't wipe the smile off this dude's face. And I tried, trust me, I put him to work at Legions Con, but he was so incredibly jovial. The fact that he says that Necronominus will forever hold a special place in his heart. He says, getting a tribute seems unreal. Here I am at one of the happiest moments in my life. For those who know Greg, they know that the only thing larger than his stature is the size of his heart. He's a wonderful human being. I count myself lucky to call him my friend, and to be able to do this for him was incredibly cool. And it came about in a fun way where Eric and I were actually talking about the character, talking about what we should name him. And at first, we were trying to name him after like some kind of like architectural name. We were trying to find a name for different parts of a cathedral that would work for this character, and nothing felt right. So we said, you know what, he's an ogre, let's just give him an ogre style name. So I'm looking at all the different ogre and orc names, a lot of which begin with a U, and I'm messing around with names. And I got it in my head. I said, you know what? This would be fun to name after Greg. So I bring up Greg's name and I grab those letters, the C, Z, J, A, K, and it just kind of spelled itself out. So I showed Eric and I said, what do you think about this? We can do it as kind of a fun little nod to Greg and everything. And of course, he loved it. Everyone loves Greg at the studio. So that was a fun thing. And again, to get Greg's reaction, that was made it all worth it. Let me go back and look at some of these comments here. Yeah, the new weapon is as big as the figure. For sure. It is gigantic. Let's see. Okay, here we go. What kind of range do the new sculptures have compared to the old ones? Well, Alec, our goal, again, we don't have the prints, the actual factory injection molded parts yet, so we don't know until we have it. But the idea is that, that two-handed pose that a lot of people have wanted, that's what we're trying to accomplish, being able to, get that additional range of motion so you can get some of those type of poses that people generally would use, the double jointed elbows for, or double jointed parts. The combination of the additional range of motion in the arms and in the shoulders, that should help that. And there are some figures now. I've heard some people say that the new figures that have like the cloth arms, those have an additional range of motion. You can actually get, whereas the other arms might have only come to here, you can get the other ones, the cloth ones, to there. So it's going to have an increased range for sure. Exactly how much, we're going to have to wait until we get those injection molded pieces from the factory. But we've got really big hopes for what it's going to be, and we think it's going to be pretty darn cool. Yeah, Eathyron has no stinkers in this wave, all fire. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Greg, you have to change your handles again. And even the bio, I put in some things. I refer to him as Savage because Greg's bio or his tag or his handle, whatever, for a long time was Savage Collector. So I threw that in there. And originally, the aspect, the little piece about him collecting trinkets, that wasn't originally in there. Chris Gorich actually suggested I add that. So when I read him, the bio, he thought it was very funny. And he said, oh, you should put something in there about him collecting figurines or something. So I worked that part in as well, just as an additional fun little inside joke to Greg. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it's cool to have banners on his back. That would be really cool. Let's see. My family watches Planes, Trains, and Automobiles every Thanksgiving. Yeah, I do it the day before, the night before. That's we get takeout since we're doing a lot of cooking the next day. We get takeout and we watch that as a family. I might even make it through the whole movie this year before falling asleep. We'll see. Is the collar and chest removable or is it one piece? We haven't said, but yeah. Remember, we like modularity. We like modularity, so that's what I'll say about that. Is Greg Army building this guy? Yeah, Greg Army builds everything. Star, yes, some of the hands are vertically jointed. Those two knights that I showed that come with two sets of hands, they have both the vertical and horizontal joints. Yeah, seeing Greg's face when he got it was so cool. The Bishop is next. Bishop is a deluxe horse. He comes in at 65, so it's a little bit more than the previous horses that came in at 55. And when you look at this guy, you will see why. The mighty steed known as Bishop was born lame in the stables of the Heavensbrand family. Set to be put out of its misery, a young Gideon pleaded that the foal be given a chance. The stable master told the boy he could pray that night, but come morning, the horse would need to be put down. Gideon stayed by the white horse's side that evening, praying continually until sleep overtook him. When he awoke, the horse was miraculously cured, and it was deemed that the healing touch of Eathyron himself could be seen in this miracle. Since that time, Sir Gideon and Bishop have been inseparable. They ride into battle as one, their hearts pure and true, for they know that faith has the power to turn away even death. This was a bio that I was particularly excited for, in part because traditionally we haven't given horses bios, and I'm fully committed to any place you're going to let me write content, I'm going to write content. So I had said, guys, let's give these horses bios, and we started that with Boreas, right? So if you look at Boreas from the All Stars 5 wave, that's the first horse that has actually had a full bio we presented. It'll be on the package. We presented it up front. So with Bishop, wanting to give him a bio as well was a lot of fun. The idea of a horse and his rider being inseparable, we're not breaking any new ground here. That was kind of something that right from the beginning, Eric and I said, yeah, you know what? It's low hanging fruit, but it's fun. It's fun for the characters. It's cool for the characters. So the idea of making them inseparable because Bishop, this mighty horse, was once the exact opposite and was born lame. And this was an opportunity for us to kind of bring in some of that miraculous healing type aspect, this miracle. Obviously, the Order of Eathyron is a very religious, this whole order, this whole faction is steeped in, very religious, overtones and connotations and everything. So this, miracle of healing was something that seemed to make a lot of sense. So this horse here, and again, I don't have any photos of the horse stripped down. We're going to get some of those shots so we can show everybody. But this is one of the standard horse bodies that we've used for Balius, for Boreas. You're used to this horse. Figure fans have been loving these horses, the Headless Horseman horse. All very similar. Unlike the Headless Horseman horse, that one has, the larger kind of, the most like Clydesdale type hooves and legs. This has got the ones that you see more on, again, Balius. But it's a white horse, which a lot of people have requested. But to make this deluxe, for that $10 extra, you're getting all of these soft goods. All the soft goods on this wave, by the way, I should mention, expertly prototyped by the team at CGESM. We've worked with CGESM for a number of years, both, that team, husband and wife team, absolutely amazing. The work that they do on these figures, cannot say enough about the contribution that they bring to these new figures and, how their artistry has really helped to push this line forward even further. You're seeing that here with those soft goods, all of that armor to make this deluxe style horse. In addition, 2 soft goods, and 2 the armor. You also get that dead head. This is another one of the heroes that comes with the dead head, and you get this huge lance weapon. So the accessories we're showing here, that white mane, because on the actual horse, when it's got the armor replaces the mane, but it comes with that white mane as well that you can use not only with the dead head, you could use it with the regular head as well, of course. And it's got that super long lance. So lance, that jousting weapon, that's something we haven't seen in the line yet. We've seen some customizers do those before. I know Detour has done some of those that looked really cool. Very, very cool to get an official one of those in the wave. And then here we actually have the glamour shot of Sir Gideon with his horse Bishop. So horses, I know a lot of people are on the fence with horses because they do take up a fair amount of room. It might not be something that you army build. To me, this is a great horse because it was designed to go so well with this character, with this hero, Sir Gideon. Even though this is not offered as a 2-pack, this set of these 2 figures, buying them individually, this feels like a must-have display on the shelf. And all that armor is reusable. You can use the soft goods, you can use the armor on any of the other horses. And as I said, you can use Bishop just as a white horse as well. Let me go back a little bit. Let's see. Comment here says, I think it's fantastic that the 4 Horsemen dedicate figures to people in the community. Really shows how thoughtful this company is. You got to name it after something, right? You got to give the character a name. You might as well do a little tribute to the people that have helped you get to where you are. Yeah, seeing Greg's face was priceless. It was one of the things I was most excited for the reveal special. And it's funny because Cornboy behind the scenes, so all of the guests that came up all day, Cornboy was doing that. So he was off camera and he was talking to, okay, you're going to go up for the next set of reveals. You're going to go up. And we hadn't told everybody about Sir Ukzak. So he was going to send Greg up earlier. I think it might have been for Sir Dalric. He was going to send him up. I can't remember, but he was going to send him up for an earlier reveal. And I actually was texting Cornboy saying no, because Cornboy texted me saying, okay, next is Greg and I forget who else it was. And I had to say, no, don't send Greg during the ogre because it's named after him. So I was texting him trying to move that stuff around. So when he got to come up there, it was pretty special. Let's see. Yeah, just because he comes with a dead head doesn't mean Bishop actually dies. You don't have to use it on Bishop. You can use it on anyone you want. Interesting comment here, Alex. Or Alec saying, I'm coming back to the line after having backed the very first Kickstarter, and I'm absolutely amazed by how much the figures have improved and the community has grown. It is fantastic. Well, Alec, welcome back. We are thrilled to have you back looking at this stuff. Yeah, the community has exploded, but with that growth, it's not just been unchecked growth. It's exploded and grown in a really positive way. Super cool people involved in the line. And yeah, as someone who was an initial Kickstarter backer, you met Sir Gideon back in that first Kickstarter wave. So seeing this 2.0 version that we're going to look at in a moment, that's you definitely can see the artistry and how far it's come. Let's see. No truth to that is, I think the head was just in there as a fun little Easter egg, but I'm going to assume that Bishop's going to make it. I don't want Bishop to die. No one wants Bishop to die. Everybody loves Bishop. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Gideon is mind blowing. We're going to look at him in just a moment. Oh, okay, Greg. I'll make sure that I correct that. Very cool. So again, Bishop, if you know the horses, one of the things I want to talk about was the customizing aspect. Those first two figures, a lot of customizing potential in them because of all the new parts. Even in the new Ogre Sir Ukzak, you're going to get a lot of customizing potential in him with all those new parts. Maybe less so on Bishop because it's a horse that we've had before, but white is a great color. If you do want to do some painting, white's a great base color to work with. And with all those soft goods at $65, definitely one you're not going to want to sleep on. So here we have the hero of the Order of Eathyron, the faction leader, the hero of the wave, Sir Gideon Heavensbrand. This is also a standard figure at $37. And let me tell you, $37 for this figure is insane. You are robbing Four Horsemen Studios every time you buy one of these. Of course, please rob us to your heart's content. Order as many as you want. We are happy to have you do so. But this is a gift to the fans. Keeping this at the $37 price point with all of these new parts, all of these soft goods, this is an incredible figure for that price. He is a crusader and he is a human. The dark days of the Order of Eathyron are now in the past thanks to the leadership of Sir Gideon Heavensbrand. A selfless man whose conviction and faith are unwavering, it is his example that is needed as the darkness of Necronominus returns and death itself walks once again in Mythos. Sir Gideon's faith shall be tested, yet it shall not break, even as the dead rise from their graves and stand against him on the field of battle. Leading an army of knights, Templars, mystics, and paladins, Sir Gideon and the Order of Eathyron march to meet the horrors of the congregation, bringing the purifying light of the crowned eagle with them. So, gorgeous figure. Sir Gideon, he was a sleeper for me in that first Kickstarter wave. He was a character who I didn't love when I first saw him in photos. I don't know what it was, the gold armor, there's something about him. He didn't appeal to me in the way that some of the other figures did. But when I got him in hand, this is one of the ones that absolutely surpassed my expectations. And interesting story, after that first wave, which I did go all in on, I decided I'm always going to go all in. Because the fact that I almost wanted to skip Sir Gideon and he became one of my favorite figures shows that you need to get these figures in hand to actually appreciate them and decide for yourself if you want to keep them or not. Now, that being said, certainly these waves are not inexpensive. There are many people that can't go all in. Everyone's got to make their own financial responsible decisions. But for those people that can go all in, that's a personal decision I made that I was going to make it so I can always do so, just so I can see the figures in hand. So going from being blown away by Sir Gideon in that first wave to now having him here in this wave, top to bottom redesign. This uses that same knight body that we have now seen in the Sir Elijah and Sir Adalric, but more new parts. So what you're going to see if you really look at the photos, and you can go to sourcehorseman.com and look at the photos of these and zoom in, this particular character, the sculptural details on this one are second to none. The armor on, like the shoulder armor and the knees and so forth, it's got all of the bird motif, the crowned eagle worked into them. I think one of my favorite parts about this are those feathers, those winged attachments. We have multiple wing attachments in the line already that would have worked fine on this figure, but not good enough for this 2.0, not good enough for Eric Treadaway. He resculpted all of that as well. Here you see that sigil shield. Again, this is what I was talking about with Sir Adalric. The shield under that is the same base shield, but it replaces that little plug in the middle with that whole crest type look there. Soft goods by C. Jessam, multiple belts on this figure. You can see it from the back. Two different shoulder pauldrons, which is kind of cool. Changes up that look a little bit, gets it a little bit of asymmetry, which is something we don't see a ton of in the line. A brand new Heaven's Brand sword. We talked about this at the show as well. Brand new sculpted version of the Heaven's Brand, including a sheath specifically for the Heaven's Brand sword. The visor comes down. So the first Gideon, the gimmick was like a pegged visor, like you pulled it off and repegged it in. This actually has the visors connected to two circular discs that go around. It kind of pops over where the feathers would plug in, and it actually slides up and down. So it's actually a better working gimmick. So you can pull it down, push it up, and of course, there's also the unhelmeted sculpt as well for this figure. This hero figure does not come with the dead head. This is the only one of the heroes that does not come with that sculpt. But you can see the weapons that you do get here. You get that new dagger that we've seen a few times with the sheath. You get the resculpted Heaven's Brand sword with that scabbard. You get the two sets of hands. So you get the horizontal and vertical wrist hinges. New shield, new shoulder armor, two heads. Lot of great stuff with this figure. To me, as far as the heroes, and I'm very sorry, Greg, I know what your pick. This to me is my favorite figure in the new hero wave. Everything about this, all those new belts, the way this armor all lays out, all of those sculptural details that we see here. This, I mean, look, so you can see on the back of the arms there, they actually have like the bird, armor on the shoulder, the elbow pieces there. Just such a gorgeous, gorgeous figure. Let's see here, going back. No, the other pauldron does not fit as a helmet. It's genuinely a pauldron. Curtis saying, I absolutely love Gideon too, but I feel like I only need one. Tell me why I'm wrong. He's a very specific character. This is one that if you did want a Legion build, you're going to probably pull those soft goods off and you're going to have that gold torso underneath it. You're going to replace that head with maybe one of the many custom heads that are out there. So if you wanted Gideon to maybe have his own personal like elite guard, maybe what you do is you get this figure and you mess around with some of the stuff a little bit. You pull off those soft goods, so you make it not have the soft goods tabard. You make it just have the gold torso there. Use a custom head on it instead of the actual Gideon head. And with that, even maybe I would like it. Maybe Gideon doesn't have the big sigil shield and just the guards have the big sigil shield. I think there are things that you could do with that figure once you take off those soft goods, because I think those soft goods are so distinct and all those belts that the minute you pull those off, that torso is going to transform because it's going to be a very different look right in the midsection. Mess around with the pauldrons a little bit instead of using that very distinctive Eathyron pauldron. Mess around with that a little bit, paint up another pauldron, to have matching pauldrons on each. And I think you're going to have a very, very different look for these characters, Curtis. Let's see. Nice to see you, Cullen. Thanks for popping in for a moment. Gideon is the figure I most regret not getting. So there you go, Alec. Now you get a second chance to correct that. I can't wait to see more 2.0 versions. They're keeping me from spending crazy money on old ones. Yeah, and one of the things we mentioned about Sir Gideon as a 2.0 figure, a version 2 figure, I guess we should say, is this is a great look at what I think we want to do going forward for version 2s. Baron Voligar 2 and Artemis 2 are great figures, but they're different looks, right? Like Artemis 2 is not taking Artemis Run and rethinking it. Like Artemis 2 is a different point in time for Artemis Silvercord. That's her more adventuring type outfit versus her coronation attire. Even Baron Voligar 1, it's more of a ceremonial regal type armor that we see in Baron Voligar 2. Now, Attila 2 and Gorgo 2, those are genuinely reimaginings of those figures with different sculptural details, different armor, etc. on them. I think those were a great first pass, and Eric got a taste of what could be done. But really, what you see here with Gideon 2 is where Eric is thinking these future 2.0 versions, these future version 2s are going to be. This is how a character gets upgraded. There may always be a second version of a character that looks wildly different because it's a different point in time. But this is Gideon really at the same point in time that that first one was meant to be. This is a great look at what you can expect from that. Not nearly enough mustache figures. Well, this guy's got enough mustache for a collection, let me tell you. Yeah, he's definitely not subtle. He's proud of his faith and not afraid to show it. Let's see. It's again, Star. It's not really meant to him to be later in life. It's a more ornate armor, obviously, but this isn't really meant to be. This is genuinely, what I'm sure Eric would have loved to do early on if the line allowed for what we can do today. Yes, the skirt is separate on Bishop. Let's see. Okay, great. So the last thing I want to talk about with the heroes very, very quickly before we move on to the evil characters are 2 accessory packs. So you saw that a lot of these figures, a lot of these characters came with 2 sets of hands, the horizontal and the vertical hinges, but they're both holding hands. One of the things that I've loved lately is more expressive hands. Being able to have a sword in one hand and an open hand in the other, that's very cool from a display standpoint. People have asked for knight hands packs, expressive open hands for armor for quite some time. We get it in this wave. Now, what's cool is instead of, raising the price of the individual figures by dumping a whole lot of hands in there, by keeping it only to 2 sets of hands, it allows the price point on those standard figures to remain the same. And then you get something like this, a knight's hand pack. So for $14, you literally get 15 sets of hands. Do the math. You're paying less than $1 per set of hands. That's crazy value there. They come in 3 different colors. So they're actually made to match Sir Elijah, Sir Adalric, and Sir Gideon. But because these are color armor that we see throughout the line, these are going to work with a variety of figures. They're 1.0 pegs. They pop right in. Honestly, 1.0 hands can pop into 2.0 wrists as well. So technically, these should work across the entire line. Similarly, with these new knight weapons that we see as included with the figures, we know that people may want to outfit some of their other knight figures with some of these weapons as well. So this knight weapons pack for only $20, you're going to get both of those shields. The hammer, it's got both of those attachments. So you can either use the hammer or the mace. It's got the new spear, the sword and scabbard, and the dagger and scabbard. Totally different colors. And if you saw on the G-Con broadcast, Cameron painted these. He mentioned that the colors that were used were meant to be very muted colors that are going to work with a variety of figures, but also colors that are almost like primer colors to begin with. So if you're getting these and you actually want to paint them, they're already a great base color for you to paint on top of. So hand packs, weapons packs, those are 2 additional things that I think add even more value to this new wave. That brings us to the bad guys. So now we're going to shift our attention and we're going to start talking about the characters from the Congregation of Necronominus, starting with the Tuberculi. So this is a deluxe figure. He is going to be $45. He's a monster and his race is a tuberculous. So tuberculous is the singular, tuberculi is the plural. That's all of them. The Dark Fur were defeated by the great beasts and banished from the realm of Mythos. Powerful magic was used to imprison the Lord of Death, and those same spells sent many of the monstrosities that fought in his army away as well. Known as the tuberculi, these long forgotten terrors of the First Age come in a variety of forms, and all are horrible. The heroic warriors fighting for Mythos today have never seen an enemy like a tuberculous. And as the barrier between that realm and the prison where Necronominus and his acolytes have waited begins to weaken, these rotting denizens of death stir and prepare to fight once again. This is a figure that, again, I'm not playing the joke. Pictures don't do it justice, but this is a figure that has a presence that I don't think you see in the photos. And it's partially because of the size. Just because it is such a monstrous looking size, even though these are all 1.0 pieces, the monstrous size of this gives it a kind of shelf presence that you're going to be surprised by when you actually get it. This is meant to be somewhat of a builder figure. All of these bones are meant to be popped and swapped and messed around. And one of the things we talked about at G-Con was kind of locking down a bone color. So if you look at Mythic Legions and you look at the different skeletons, there are a number of different colors of bones. That's going to continue because we like there being variety. But one of the things we talked about is when you have a major name character like a Brother Mandibulus or a Malleus, use those characters to do different bone colors on. But when you have characters that are meant to be more builder-like, lock in a bone color so there's more interchangeability. So Legion builders, characters like the tuberculi will now start coming with a standard bone color so you can pop and swap and mix and match. One of the cool things about this, I love the oversized arms. It almost has that simian style look that it just drags down, coupled with the shorter legs, because those upper legs, Eric had mentioned, those are dwarf size. So the fact that the upper legs are dwarf size makes the overall leg profile a little bit smaller. And because the arms are so oversized, you get this really beastly, monstrous type look here. Brand new belt and loin. That's a super cool new piece that's looks a lot more tattered and a lot more, undead appropriate than maybe some of the other armor. It's going to have a bendy tail. Those arms on the back, I love the fact, such a small little thing, but the fact that those bands that are around it, those wristbands, those bangles, they're separate pieces. So those will slide over the wrist, put the hand on. Just being able to have those bangles that can kind of move, that's a creepy looking skeleton type thing that I think is going to be pretty neat. I love the weapons on this. The fact that it was given these bone-handled blades, comes with a bone-handled axe as well. And then you got these, little kind of vestigial like wings that are coming off the back, not full giant wings, something that makes it look almost even creepier. Really, really cool build. Here's a second photo that Trevor took with the second head, and it's a more of a dynamic pose to really show the way that this thing, the crazy configurations you're going to be able to get with this character. Shot here, you can see four sets of hands, because it's got two of the more monstrous hands for the big ones, right? An open one and a gripping one, and then two slightly smaller hands that go in the other arms, two different heads, and all those weapons. Look at that face. Photo from Trevor. And here's something that no one has seen yet. So this is actually a little behind the scenes shot. So this is a render that Eric did while he was constructing this. So this is a little bit earlier on. This is something Eric sent to me actually when we were going back and forth on some stuff and on the character creations and the bios. This actually shows the larger of the arms in the back ports and the smaller of the arms in the front. Interestingly, it also shows Red Shield Soldier midsection armor, which wasn't actually used. Obviously, you just saw that the waist armor was replaced with something brand new. But I wanted to show this just as an example so you can see that this has a lot of options. There are the shoulder ports that you can put the wings in. There are the back ports that fit arms. There are the shoulder ports that fit arms. Just right there, you have a lot of variety. You can pull some of the arms off so it's not four-armed character. It doesn't have wings. The idea with these is they're an army of these undead creatures. They all look different. So that is one of the beautiful things about this is it is a bag of bones. This is the kind of thing that if you buy multiples, you are going to be able to pop them all apart and make crazy, crazy configurations. I almost imagine it kind of like that old Masters of the Universe figure Modulok, which Modulok was kind of one of the inspirations for the Furious 4-pack, giving people all these different parts that they can mix and match. I think this is actually even a better example of Modulok, where when you got Modulok and it had all these different pieces, you could combine them in an infinite variety of ways. And if you had multiple Modulok sets, you could do even more with it. To me, that is what the Tuberculi is going to offer as well. If you get a handful of these, you're going to be able to create a small army of these bony terrors. I think that is cool. This figure is one of my favorites in the wave. It was one that when I first saw the photos in the design, I liked. And then legit, when I saw it on the table, again, I mentioned the shelf presence this thing is going to have. This is going to be one. This is the kind of figure, by the way, when you want to turn somebody on to Mythic Legions and you want to give them a figure that's going to blow their doors off, this is going to be one of the ones you're going to want to give them. Get an extra one of these, tuck it away, and that friend of yours that you've been trying to convince to go to Mythics, this is the figure you give them. Okay. We do not have a museum, but we do have the studio, which has got quite a bit of stuff bouncing around. Joe, do you keep saying this is my favorite to everything I show? Sounds right, Joe. Sounds right. Everything we show becomes the new favorite. Death Knight. I ordered 5 tuberculi. Very good. Good man. Thank you very much for that support. Let's see. So many options for this guy, Joe. Yep, you're right. Yep, remove the back arms, add the bone wings, and you have a skeletal gargoyle. Absolutely. There's a ton of stuff you can do here. Yeah, people asking if the wings from Necronominus will work. Absolutely. Actually, fun point, the lower part of the bone wings, they are actually the same ones on, they're same parts. A lot of these are the same parts. So all of this stuff will actually work. But yeah, this is a figure that I'm so excited for. This is a figure, when I look at this, I could imagine being a kid and walking into a toy store and having no idea what this is and seeing this on a shelf and just being like, oh my goodness, I need that. Love this figure. So this is one people are going to be buying extras of. Tuck some of these away. You're going to find a use for it. Belualith. Possibly my favorite figure in the wave. This and the Tuberculi love these figures. I mentioned during the broadcast, she caught me by surprise because I swear Eric told me she was a blade master. So when I got there and I saw a chimera and all these other creations, blew me away. She is a ghoul and she is a deluxe figure at $50 because she comes with literally other figures. She comes with a whole articulated chimera. When Necronominus was recalled to Mythos, he did not return alone. Loyal acolytes of the Lord of Death, who had been banished with him after the First Great War, returned as well, including the ghoulish child of Necronominus named Belualith, a beastmaster who commands a skeletal chimera, the Legion of Tuberculi, as well as other unnatural monsters that have not been seen in Mythos since the First Age. She resumes her role as one of the generals in her father's army. A lot of cool stuff here. Great looking figure, right? She's got all these cool things. She's another child of Necronominus. So it's actually interesting because when we were writing her bio, we were trying to figure out what we want to do. And we talked about the fact that, we liked talking about the first age, the fact that these are characters that we haven't seen since the banishment of the Dark Four, the Tuberculi being one of those. So when we talked about this character, one of the things, right as we were writing these, I was working on an article for the website about the Children of Necronominus, and I realized something I had never realized before. And that was that the bios for Malleus and Brother Mandibulus and Morgulith, they don't refer to them as the three children of Necronominus. They kept referring to them as the three remaining children. That word remaining was in there. I'd never keyed on that before, and now I did. So I said to Eric, hey, why don't we make her a child of Necronominus? The fact that it says remaining children, presumably there would be others, and they would be revealed as part of this. They would come through. So that was super. He loved that idea. He was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. This is one, again, that I think is just unbelievable. Let me look at some comments, then I'm going to go through her photos. She's sexy, people are saying. Yeah, isn't it weird that she's like this undead, ghoulish zombie and she's eerily beautiful? Eric says, absolutely my favorite. Yeah, I knew you'd love her. Sherry killed it with that paint scheme, 100%. So interesting, some people like it seems like a lot of people like the no-nose head better. I personally like the nose head better, only because I like the contrast. There's so much death in that wave. Obviously, it's a wave full of skeletons who don't have noses. So to me, the fact that the head of her having a nose, I think, provides more contrast when she's positioned and going to be displayed with the other characters. But the great thing is you can do whatever you want. It comes with both heads, so you get the ability to actually use either one. The Chimera and the Tuberculi are not going to be interchangeable. They're actually different colors, and the parts aren't meant to be popped and swapped like that. Okay. Value of the figure is insane. This is actually one of the figures that has not a lot of new tooling in the figure itself, because the lower legs are armor parts we've had before. The arm is the standard arm we've had as a 2.0 female figure, so we're not getting a ton of new sculpting in the body. Obviously the belt she's got there is new. The heads are new, but we get a lot of new parts here with her accessories. So she's got, like Valak had that gimmick where the cuff went on the arm, and Cinder, his falcon, sits on his arm. This works in a similar fashion where you can pull that off, so she's just got a regular gauntlet, or you can slide that on, and that skeleton vulture-like bird will rest there. Also on her back, we can see that bone coming up from her back. That is a separate bone piece we'll look at in a moment that plugs into that middle back port. So it plugs in there, comes up over her shoulder, and it's got a little hook where that bird cage, or that, in this case, snake cage, actually fits. The cool thing with the cage is it comes apart, the tree that's in it, the snake, all that comes out. So you can do other things with it. You can use it. I mean, I'm already imagining that some of her pieces being used in dioramas and in photography. If someone's doing like these all look very wizardly, right? Like a wizard's type lab where he's got cages and skeletons and all kinds of stuff like that. So you can see here that back bone kind of plugged into her back. You can see that shoulder armor. A lot of people are saying it looks like a baby unicorn, which is super creepy and cool. I love the fact that they're thinking that. Here's the Chimera. So the Chimera is not a fully articulated figure. It is articulated, but like those legs, they're articulated at basically the shoulder points. So you're not going to have articulation at the knees. It's going to be more of like that 5-point style articulation. Necks are on ball joints, so you get some posability there. I believe also the back part is on a ball joint as well. So you definitely do have some posability in this figure. It's going to be movable. It's going to be, move the heads around for different poses and stuff like that. Here's the accessories here. So you can see this shows the bird cage lifted off. You can see that snake. I do believe the snake is not going to be a bendy piece. It's going to be kind of sculpted like that, but you could be able to also put it on her arm so she could drape it over and stuff. Couple different sets of hands. Got that bone knife. That weapon, that bone piece that plugs in her back could also be used as a club. And then you got both of the heads there. Both, as we said, the version with the nose that we see here, or the version without the nose that we see here. This is probably, of all the shots Trevor took, I think this one is my favorite. Just, I love the figure itself. That certainly helps, but something about this particular shot, I just think, yeah, gorgeous. And looking at all of his shots and how great they are, this is the one that floored me. I'm gonna go back and look at some of the comments here. Need the hairpiece for my Alithia figure, someone's saying. The ball joints on the Chimera are not the same as the way it's been. Someone asked during the broadcast if they could be swapped with other figures. Because of the way the ball joint had to work to fit on that neck at that angle, it's not going to work on a regular figure because, the neck of the Chimera goes straight out, the neck on figures goes up. So if you pop that head, even if you modified it, it would be looking up. So a customizer might be able to modify them in such a way to make it work, but they're not meant to actually do that. It's not going to be a simple pop and swap out of the box. Okay, let's see. You got lots of undead animal friends. Joe saying give her a skeleton arm. Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing. She's a ghoul. You could zombify her even more if you want. Totally. Joe saying, watching with my wife, this is the figure to bring her in. Yeah, I've seen a number of people compare it to a very Tim Burton-like looking character, Corpse Bride, Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. It's interesting because Eric is a huge Disney fan. I know he loves Nightmare Before Christmas. So was there a subtle influence? I mean, it is Halloween, and there are a number of Nightmare Before Christmas decorations in Eric's house. So maybe some of that leaked into this a little bit. Very uniquely Mythic Legions, but seeing some of those influences, I think, is a cool thing. Whatever influenced Eric, more of it, because I love this figure. Yeah, there could be living acolytes of Necronominus. They probably won't be living for long because he wants to kill everything. So we will see. Figure 6 saying, I like the head with the nose. Me too. Joe saying, everyone else scouring the internet for skeleton critters to display her with. Well, around Halloween time, there's plenty of those. So I'm sure you won't have any problems with that. Awesome. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to the Undead Builder Pack. So a little bit of confusion about this pack and what it is. I did share a photo today on our Instagram kind of explaining that, and we'll look at it here as well. So this is a builder set. It is a $55 price point. This is going to be similar to the other builder sets like the Barbarian set, the Knight builder set. There was actually both a male and female. One of the things we said during the broadcast was like that Barbarian set and that Knight set, they were very much focused on giving you lots of weapons and lots of armor. Because early on in the line, that's what people wanted. This was it was almost like an extra weapon set included with the figure. So it was giving you a lot of pop and swap options with armor and weapons. This particular set is a similar mentality, but instead of armor and weapons, it's all about body parts to make out this undead army. So let me read this. I'm going to talk you through some of this. The undead ranks of the Congregation of Necronominus are made up of more than just skeletons. The zombified remains of the freshly dead, the flesh still clinging to their bones, claw their way from the grave to march behind the Lord of Death. The restless spirits of the long deceased also fly forward, their ghostly bodies given the power to animate suits of cast-off armor and wield weapons in their spectral hands. There is no peace in death for these souls, no rest beyond the grave, for they have returned to Mythos as part of the undead army of Necronominus. Now, this is a builder pack. You're going to build with it. You're going to want multiples of this pack. Part of the confusion some people had early on was they didn't understand that it's one body. So I'm going to shoot forward really quick just to show this photo here. This is the photo that we showed today that shows what's in the pack. This is one body. So you get that torso, you get the waist piece, the armor, set of bracers, set of lower legs, set of pauldrons. That's one. But then you get two sets of limbs, heads, and hands. One set that's in the translucent clear plastic to make ghost builds. One set that's in that like decaying gray color to make zombie builds. Now, if you buy one of these sets, you're going to build one figure, like for instance, we see in the center here, and you're going to have all of these extra parts. A number of people have suggested, oh, you should have just put two bodies in the pack. Well, fair enough. If we would have done two bodies, it would have been a two pack, not a builder pack, and it would have been closer to $80. So the idea here is that we know that a lot of our existing fans already have boxes of fodder. They have Legion builders, deluxe Legion builders, and just things that they've had over the years from popping and swapping. This is a great set to use some of those parts, okay? If you have an extra torso and some armor pieces, you can use these extra limbs to build out zombies and to build out ghosts. Now, some people have said, well, what if I don't have those extra parts? Well, the reality is the cost of this set plus a Legion builder is what a two-pack would have cost. At $55, Legion builders are $26. So if you buy a $26 Legion builder, you're looking at about the same price that the two-pack would have been. Now, I did see some comments saying Legion builders are not available for $26 anymore. This isn't going to be out for a little while. There are going to be more opportunities to buy Legion builders. We just had Legions Con with a table full of deluxe Legion builders for $30, and that's show prices. As we do shows, we will have deluxe Legion builders. We're going to have other Legion builders that come out. So don't worry. We know what we're doing with this. What we didn't want to do was put those two bodies, force people to spend $80 because, to be honest with you, we were trying to lower the price here. This is already a large wave. The all-in is already more than our standard all-in. We were trying to not necessarily cut corners, but we weren't trying to add dollars in there. We were trying to find ways to keep this as a lot of value for what you get. So that is the thought process behind this wave, is for fans that we know have lots of fodder, this is a great set for them to build out undead armies. And for people that don't have lots of fodder, we've got things coming down the pipe that are going to help them get that. So this image actually shows just 4 different builds, okay? The only way to do this is if you literally bought 4 of the sets, because this uses the same body across all 4. So you would need 4 sets to actually recreate this. But this actually shows all the 4 different head options. So you can see on the left, we've got the 2 different zombies, and on the right, we've got the 2 different ghosts. This shows all of the accessories that it comes with. So what you're not seeing here is the base body and the 2 sets of limbs, but you see there's 8 sets of hands, 4 for each, of the ghost and zombie, 2 ghost heads, 2 zombie heads. The one thing we're not sure about is that ghost head that has all the spectral effects. So you can see it's all taken apart here because it was printed separately. This is how it looks all together. We're not sure at the factory if those eyepieces are going to be glued in or if they're going to be removable and you can pop them out. Trevor took shots with them out because that's how we sent them to him. We're not sure yet. We're going to ask that they be poppable in and not be glued, but it might not be feasible. If they are glued in, it'll probably just be easy to glue, pop them right back out to get this look. But that's 2 different ways that you can look at it there. That skull with the stuff around his neck or with it also coming out of his eyes. That's the second ghost head there, super creepy. And then the 2 different zombie heads, this one here, and then the one that's got kind of that jaw hanging down. This set is super popular. People are loving this. I think this is going to give you a ton of playability options. And again, the cool thing about being able to mix this with other 1.0 figures, because again, these are all 1.0 parts, so they're going to combine with all of your 1.0 figures, is zombies shouldn't all be wearing the same armor. You want to be able to have all different types of pieces. So being able to pop and swap this on all different types of cast off armor, I think is going to look very, very cool. I'm going to go back and look at some comments here. And as I said at the start, we are going to run a little bit late tonight because we've got a lot to get through. I mean, that's the other thing too with these is, you know, you can pop these on any of the other figures. So that take that Sir Elijah Templar figure, right? If you want to make Sir Elijah a zombie, you could take this pack and your extra Sir Elijah, you can pop some zombie limbs on him. You can pop the zombie head on. These are going to work with any of those 1.0 figures. So even within the wave, you have a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this. Can the ghostly neck be attached on the figure without the head? I mean, in prototype form, yes, but we're not sure 100% how the factory is going to engineer that. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay, let's see. Gregor saying most anticipated release. I was watching Joe set up the display in the lobby. The ghost head was glowing in the light, and I couldn't stop noticing it. Yeah, at Legions Con, you mean. The way the light was hitting that ghost, it was like people were asking if we had lit it from underneath, and we hadn't. It was just perfect positioning with that light. Yep, any of those heads turn a knight into a zombie, 100%. Not a 4-pack, yes. Yeah, can confirm boxes of fodder. Absolutely. And again, at the end of the day, we got to make a decision. You know, when you're planning this stuff out, we could have done a 2-pack. We could have done, you know, a single pack. We could have made them Legion builders. There's a million things we could have done. You got to make a decision that you think is, hey, we think this will be a cool release. We think this will check a lot of boxes for people. Is it going to be a perfect fit for everybody? No, because nothing we can do is. If we would have made a 2-pack, we would have had plenty of people that said, hey, I wish you wouldn't have made me spend $80. I would have only wanted one. If we would have done both of them, people would have said, oh, you should have done them together. And you can never win. So you just pick what you think is going to be best, and then try to do other things. Like I said, maybe some reinforcements or some Legion builders down the road that will help fill in the gaps for where people need them. Let's see. Jeremy knows how to build an army. Absolutely. Okay. I will talk about All-Star 6 at the end. A lot of people asking for body packs. I think you'd be surprised at how poorly body packs would sell. I think a lot of people think they want them, but they wouldn't actually sell as well as people think they would. Maxilius the Harvester. This figure is popular. When we read this bio at the intern day, or GCon, I should say, people were like, wow. $37 figure. He's a standard figure, another gift to the fans, because this one easily could have hit a higher price point. He is a herald and his race is unknown. Before the Lord of Death appears, there is Maxilius the Harvester. Necronominus comes forth to raise the dead and grow his army, and the harvester's job is to give his master fields of freshly reaped bodies to turn to his side. Maxilius is as unstoppable as the passage of time. He is a force of nature that cannot be reasoned with or slowed. He exists only to kill. Entire companies of knights have fallen at his feet as the harvester comes to reap, a scythe in one hand and an hourglass swimming with the souls of his victims in the other. When you hear the rattling of his bones he wears upon his chest, you know the harvester is close. So Maxilius the Harvester was made for one very important reason, because we knew that fans wanted a Grim Reaper. We knew that Necronominus was not a Grim Reaper. Not only is his power to raise the dead as opposed to reap and kill, but the look of Necronominus is very regal. It's very, religious like. I talked earlier about the Order of Eathyron being steeped in religious traditions. Their opposing faction, the Congregation of Necronominus, also has a lot of religious overtones as well. When we get to Necronominus, the look of Necronominus has a very, religious, almost pope-like look with, the big headdress and everything, and the vestments. So we knew that fans wanted something that was a more traditional Reaper character. So very early on, Eric decided he wanted to make a herald of Necronominus. The phrase that we used, the name that we used for this character up until right at the end when we did the bio, was the Herald. That's what we called him. So very cool to see this character come together. Eric actually mentioned in the broadcast he almost dumped this character. He was having a really hard time figuring out what he wanted to do with it, and it finally came together for him. But this was a hard one for him to do. One of the things that fans are really responding to with this figure, and certainly one of the reasons they are buying them in large quantities, is the versatility. So what you are seeing here is the fully put together character of Maxilius the Harvester. It's got all of this bone armor, and it's super, super cool. If you look at it, lots of details, weird type bones that are going on in that armor. The back piece, the fact that it's got almost like a halo type look, and then it's got these wings that kind of come off from the front. It makes that, that kind of like wing-like look, right? Those like bone wings that jut up almost from its shoulders. But when you get to the back, you actually see it's also got these red wings that are sculpted into that back piece, very much like an angel of death. Like this has that angel of death type look. It's got a halo. It's got wings. It's got that big scythe. So a lot of cool stuff going on there. But additionally, if you want to do that classic Grim Reaper, what you are looking at here is a head replacement. So this figure comes with two heads. The head that comes with the Maxilius is eyeless. The eyes are like fused. The sockets are fused shut. Just by swapping in this more traditional skull head, removing that bone armor, you have this classic Grim Reaper look, what I think a lot of people are going to love. But taking it a step further, there's got to be something under that robe. So this is what I love about the attention to detail on this wave. Now, clearly, I work for the company. I'm the director of sales and marketing. My job is to sell this stuff, but I'm a fan. You all know me, right? You know I'm a fan. I love the fact that they could have put anything under that robe. They could have put a standard torso, the standard legs. It could have been a skeleton legion builder under that robe, and people would have been like, oh, cool. I got Maxilius and I got a Reaper. But the fact that they went to this other level to give us this, to put a full skeleton under the body, that is awesome. So for people that just want to build out these skeleton ranks, here we go. We've got a full skeleton, and these are 1.0 pieces. Those lower legs, those lower arms, you could pop those off and use different 1.0 arms there. You could armor this character up. The only thing that's going to be different is that waist piece. This waist piece is a slightly different system because of the way that it has to actually connect. But you're going to be able to do a lot of popping and swapping just with this character as is, or just build out these undead ranks. This is a look. This is one figure. So obviously to lay them all out like this, you would need to buy 3. But this is what you get with this $137 figure. For anyone, by the way, that is still under that, kind of subscribing to that narrative that Legions figures are too expensive, I don't know how you can say that after this wave, seeing what you're getting with Gideon, seeing what you're getting with this figure here. This type of versatility to have that Maxilius figure, the Reaper figure, the skeleton, great set. Here you see the hourglass, the fused skull head, the standard skull head, 2 sets of hands. You got the gripping hands and you've got the pointing hands, and you've got that scythe. It is a different scythe than we're going to see with Necronominus in a moment. Close up, beauty shot. I'm going to come back to this in a moment, but I did also want to just point out the skeleton hands pack. This goes back to what I was talking about with the standard bone color. So this figure here is the standard bone color. So the same color you found in the tuberculous, you're going to see here in this skeleton. You're also going to see in that skeleton hands and foot pack. That I think is super cool, because even just between those figures and that hand pack, you're going to get a lot of popping and swapping options. Monarch to the Kingdom of the Dead, 1/6 shooter says. I love the way that sounds. Braku, I've never heard him mention the Vikings TV series, so I don't actually know. He may have seen it. That's one he's never mentioned at all. I will talk about the Necronominus Conibus box in a moment. Yeah, Hedgehog, this is a $37 figure, as crazy as that is. Let me go down and check out these comments here. 3 figures in one. Yeah, a lot of versatility. The Templar soft goods, Drew, probably won't fit on older figures. The chest plate, the new chest is a little bit smaller, so you get that look, so it doesn't look oversized and bulky. So I think selling just a soft goods pack probably wouldn't work for those older figures. You'd probably have to sell the torso with it, which is feasible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Yeah, I mean, one of the things too that some people have pointed out is, with the bones here, the skeleton, this is not a thin skeleton. It's a stylized skeleton. There's no getting away from that. Like, no one's going to look at this and say, wow, that is a perfect anatomically, accurate representation. No one's going to bring this into a medical class and use it as a teaching tool, nor is it meant to be. Mythic Legions are stylized figures. There's a look to Legions, and that's okay. I think sometimes when people say like, oh, they should do this, they should do that, sometimes I think we forget to ask ourselves, is that what they want to do? Like, they're clearly making decisions for a reason, and part of that reason is the aesthetics of the line. This is very much Eric's vision. There's a number of other skeleton figures out there. Obviously, Frush is doing a bunch. Storm Collectibles, they've done, a number of them for their Golden Axe series. The Storm Collectibles one, I know people really love those. They're much thinner skeletons. I think there's a place for all of that stuff. But when it comes to the realm of mythos, skeletons got a little beef to them. They are definitely thick. Going through the comments here, see what everyone's saying. I want to put black feathered wings. Well, you could certainly paint them, or you could plug in some actual feathered wings. Some black wings, they would fit in back. Do not want to cover this with a robe. Well, that's why you buy multiple. You buy multiple so you can get all the different looks. He is a buff skeleton. I mean, that's another thing that people pointed out is, if you do buy this figure for $37 and take that robe off, that's soft goods that you can use for other stuff. I think it was on Legion's cast that Jesse mentioned, yeah, if you bought a handful of these to have a bunch of skeletons and you had all these extra robes, you put them on other figures and almost make like a group of monks or something out of it. And I thought that was a super cool way to potentially use that robe and not find a use for it. Will there be skeleton only Legion builders in the future? Who knows? Never know what the future will hold. Let's see. He is big boned. Great for crypts too. Yeah, I mean, you pop that skeleton right there. That's a great point. Thank you, Ryan. You pop this whole thing apart and you literally have just bones lying around your dios and your photographs and stuff like that. That's one of the cool things, because these are still Legions and they are fully modular. You can pop all of those pieces apart and have a pile of bones. Very cool. Oh, let's get rid of this guy because they are spamming. Yeah, that's Curtis says, buy a dozen skeletons, use the robes for monks. Very cool. Okay, so we're winding down. We're getting close to the end. Yeah, I officially made it. My chat is getting spammed. Yeah, I get rid of them. Oh, funny stuff. Okay, so last two we're going to look at are Conibus, the skeletal horse of Necronominus, and Necronominus himself. So let's start with Conibus. He is a deluxe horse, so he doesn't come with all the soft goods and the lance and everything that Bishop does. But what he does come with is a whole lot of new tooling. A number of people had suggested there's no way these guys are going to actually do a skeleton horse. The horsemen are all about reusing parts, building out the library with parts that they can use over and over. A skeleton horse has less longevity, less possible uses. All of those things are true, and we did it anyway because, as we said in the broadcast, the success of the line has allowed us to take chances and to do things like this. Seeing a fully skeleton horse as opposed to a couple of skeleton parts mixed in with zombified parts that we can get more use out of. This is an example of what the success of the line allows us to do. Take risks, spend a bunch of money on tooling to make super cool figures, even if those parts aren't going to be used dozens of times in the future. The skeletal steed of Necronominus, Conibus, is every bit the vision of horror that his master is. It is said that the clopping of Conibus's hooves awakens the dead, and then the touch of his master's relic weapon, the God Razor, brings them back from the peace of the grave and makes them a soldier in his undead army. Once risen, they form up like supplicants behind the Lord of Death, moving in unison with the clopping of his pale horse. So, again, wanting to create a bio for the horse. I wanted to get the words pale horse in there. That was important to me because of the writings in the book of Revelation talking about, the horseman, I don't remember it exactly, but, dark rider, pale horse, and his name was Death. I wanted to get the words pale horse in there. But I also like the idea of, the harvester being the one that reaps all the bodies and kills them. Conibus, the sound of his hooves awakening the dead, and then the touch of the God Razor bringing the dead back to life. So that trio of characters, the harvester reaping, Conibus awakening them, and literally Necronominus rising them from the dead, resurrecting them in this horrible form of undeath. I thought that was a cool connection. I love the side view here of Conibus, seeing that rib cage, which is fully hollow, being able to look at that and hold that and see the fact that it's a bone rib cage. There's nothing in there. That is super cool. I mean, this is what a great figure. What an absolute, What an absolute joy that we can have something like this in the line, that the line is successful enough to allow us to do it. And all of these parts, all of the tack, all of the armor, fully compatible with all of the other horses. Such a cool figure. And of course, that leads us to the fourth member of the Horsemen, the fourth member of the Dark Four, the leader of the Congregation of Necronominus, Necronominus himself. He is a $60 figure. The last of the Dark Four to return to Mythos, Necronominus is the most powerful of these evil gods. While the Dark Four have no leader, they all defer to Necronominus. For all their powers lead to death, and that is his domain. A vision of pure horror, clad in tattered vestments and wielding the mighty God Razor, Necronominus resurrects an army of the undead to follow behind him. They are a mindless force, totally devoted to the Lord of Death and his children, an army that swells as fallen foes are touched by the dark magic of the God Razor to become soldiers for the Congregation of Necronominus. So this figure is over the top in every way, and it's a wonderful way. I have heard a number of people asking questions about him, so I'm going to try to answer some of them. He is almost head to toe a new sculpture. Some of the parts that you see on him are parts that were used in other figures we've seen in the wave, but brand new figure. He is taller than a regular 1.0. So not only because of his hat, but even like his lower legs, like the leg armor is a little bit larger than a standard leg armor. So he does stand, hat or not, a little bit taller than regular figures. Not brute scale. He's not that size, but when you are going to stand him next to the other members of the Dark Four, he is going to be a little bit bigger. Of course, he also has those massive, massive wings. Another example of Eric not taking the easy road. We already had a set of bone wings. They would have worked fine for this figure, but Eric wanted to resculpt them. He wanted to do something new. If you compare the new bone wings to the original, the new bone wings are essentially twice the size. They have so much size to them. The way they kind of curl in and articulate, you're going to be able to almost kind of like encase him a little bit in it. Incredible. The soft goods on this, it's hard to see some of the patterns on the inside of the cape, but the most complex soft goods that C. Jessam has done for the line, absolutely incredible. And then you get that weapon as well. So that God Razor itself is just a massive, massive weapon. So ornate, crazy that it actually has, if you look at it, and when you look at the accessory shot here, it's actually got a little sculpture of Necronominus holding a scythe at the top of his scythe. So he's holding a weapon where he holding his weapon are sculpted into the weapon, as crazy as that is. 3 sets of hands that you get on this figure as well, with all of these details. So much. I mean, even those like the vestments that kind of come down, the fact that it's all little individual bones. We're going to be posting tomorrow an article on Source Horseman, a figure in focus article on Necronominus himself. And it's really interesting when you see, I was able to pull out the original sketches that Eric did, not only for Necronominus, but for the entire Dark Four. Now that they're all revealed, it's really cool to actually look at those old sketches to see how closely the final figures match to their original sketch designs. Necronominus is one that you're going to see some changes on that I think are super, super cool. There's also actually some other behind the scenes photos of Necronominus in there I think that you'll appreciate. Of course, there's also this photo that, again, along with the Belualith photo, I think is the coolest photo that Trevor took for this line. I actually said that seeing him hovering like this, personally, for my display, I have behind me 4 Detolfs in the back of the room. And my eventual plan is I've already got Erythair on top of one with the Legion of Erythair in that one. I've got a Lithia on the top of the other. Eventually, I'm going to have Poxus and Necronominus on them. So each one of those cases are going to have one of the Dark Four at the top. I like Necronominus hovering so much. I might actually not make him riding Conibus. I may make Conibus there, but instead of him being seated on Conibus, I may make him like hovering above him. I thought that was a really cool way to portray this character. Wow, and it would also be different from the other Dark Four who were sitting on their horses. I think him hovering above his horse would actually be a really cool display option. So a couple quick things I will also mention. The Necronominus and Conibus, you can also buy that in a 2-pack. So the 2-pack is only available at Store Horseman. It is not part of the all-in, and it will not be available from retailers. I did hear some people saying, oh, I heard them say that the 2-pack's going to come in a different kind of box. That is not true. That was a miscommunication. What we said was Necronominus is going to come in a different size box. So Necronominus is such a large figure. The wings are so big, it cannot come on the same deluxe card that Alithia and Erether came on. So the single Necronominus figure is going to come in a box. It's going to be different than the other figures. However, the 2-pack, there's enough space in that 2-pack that unless something changes, as of right now, the plan is that this will come in the same size 2-pack that the other members of the Dark Four, those other 2-packs are in. So little confusion there based on something we said. We did say something about a different box, but it was not for the 2-pack itself. So the 2-pack is $110. That's $15 off the individual price because Necronominus is $60, Conibus is $65. So that's $125 if you buy them individually. If you buy them as a set, even if you want them to open, if you're going to buy both of them, buying the 2-pack actually will save you a little bit of money there. Let me go check out the comments and see what people are saying here. Necronominus makes me think of Mardi Gras. Yeah, he's a fancy dude. Yeah, Necronominus is one we probably won't show with all of his stuff off. We have the prototype of him, and he does have to go to the factory. He is very, very fragile, very hard to put together. It's also why Trevor didn't show him seated on the horse. Again, when these are done in factory, injected, they're going to be superposable and you'll be able to move them around and pull the parts off, no problem. But when we're dealing with the 3D printed prototypes, especially with characters that are all very thin bones, it is very hard. They are very, very fragile. If you saw Joe at both Legions Con and at G-Con handling these, he was being very, very careful because of the fragility of the figures themselves. Getting all that stuff off. This is one that we probably won't be able to do that. Someone today was asking about taking his big hat off. It might be something that you can pull off because it's glued on and you can unglue it, but he is not meant like a lot of the other figures that have, where you can pull things off. It's not necessarily meant to have the hat removed. This is the look of the figure, but that's also why we gave you the Harvester, to have more of that kind of look. Same thing with Conibus. Trying to pull all that stuff off might be tough to do it. Maverick, I don't know if that conversation made me want to do it, but it was something that as I started thinking about it, I very much wanted to get Pale Horse in that. But now that you mention it, we did talk about that. So that's maybe I subconsciously was thinking that. No, he doesn't have a bedroll. Plenty of those to go around. Yes, Necronominus will fit on the horse. Like I said, we just, because of how fragile it is, to try to bend it. I mean, Trevor, we put him through the paces having to get the poses he does get with these 3D printed pieces. Any of us who use 3D printed parts, we know how fragile they are. Imagine if all the joints were also 3D printed. That's what Trevor gets to deal with. So there's only so much that you can actually pose. Yeah, this is one, again, when you see him in hand, I think he's just a lot of figure, a lot. Okay, so we're wrapping it up now. Unbelievable to see in person, Ryan said. Yeah, another tiny necro with a scythe on the scythe. Wyatt saying these are so good they'll be my first Mythic Legions. Well, I'm very happy to hear that, Wyatt. I look forward to hearing what you think once you get them in hand. Can you look into producing some of Nate's Mythic art into posters for sale? Yeah, Visionary, we actually have a lot of his artwork as prints for sale at Legion Shop. Legion Shop is closed right now, but we will be reopening on Black Friday, and we have a bunch of Nate's art. The Headless Horseman pieces that he had at Legion's Con, we will actually also have those available at Legion Shop. We took the extras home with us, so those will go up at Legion Shop for the first time. Let's see. Yeah, how the headdress attaches is still being worked on. Again, great questions for everybody. We just don't always have answers yet because some of this stuff literally gets decided further on in the process. So last things to mention, the all-in on this wave. So the all-in includes all 11 figures you see here, plus I didn't picture the 2 hand packs. So you get the skeleton hand and foot pack, as well as the knight hand pack. You get those, and you get that Knights of Eathyron weapon set. Those 3 accessory packs plus all 11 figures, that's going to come in at $560. If you do the math, and by the way, the most recent episode of Legion's Lounge, wonderful. Anybody that, I mean, it's always a wonderful show, but this time they went to the mat with spreadsheets and math equations. Really interesting for the people that wonder, does it make more sense to go all in? Should I wait and buy stuff later on? I love the fact that they mentioned that, obviously these are pre-orders, the money's collected up front. There is a sentiment from certain collectors of, I don't want to give them a free loan for the next year plus to hold these figures. And they did a really good job on that show of kind of detailing that you are actually getting something for that. You're saving, in this case, buying them individually from a retailer down the road will probably run you almost $200 additional. So the fact of, yeah, you are putting the money up front, but you are getting a significant savings. I love the fact that Trevor actually compared the amount of you would get by investing that in different kinds of investment vehicles over the next year versus getting the savings on the all-in. So another thing to check out, the most recent episode of Legion's Lounge, that's on 1-6 Shooter's YouTube channel. Great conversation between him, Nate, and Bill this week. But back to this, the all-in is $560. You're going to get one of every figure in the wave. The pre-order is open now at storehorseman.com. That pre-order runs until January 15th at 11 p.m. Eastern time. This is the longest pre-order I think we've ever done. It's almost all of November, right? Because we did it November 4th. So you get essentially all of November, all of December, in 2 solid weeks into January. Obviously, it's the holidays. There are a lot of different things to spend money on right now. Trying to be cognizant of that, knowing that it's a larger wave. Wanted to give people that really large window. Retailers will be carrying this wave. Obviously, it's a choice on a retailer by retailer basis. But retailers that want to choose this, that want to carry this, their pre-order will start the day after ours ends. So theirs will start on the 16th. Like always, prices will be retailer prices versus what you're getting. I mean, that's really the retail price versus kind of the pre-order price direct from the studio. So advantage, like we've always said, you're going to save money if you go through the studio now, but you pay up front. If you go through retailers, you're going to spend a little bit more, but you won't have to pay up front. Like I see a lot of fans do, they get some from the pre-order, they get some extras from retailers. Best of both worlds. You're supporting the studio direct and you're supporting the family of approved retailers. That's literally a win-win. And you get a bunch of really, really cool toys. So this runs, like I said, until January 15th. Whew, what a wave. What an absolute wave here. And we went for 2 solid hours talking about it. That is literally 1/3 the amount of time that we pitched the entire wave with the G-Con. So with the G-Con, 6 hours and my 2 hours here, 8 hours of content talking about these. And I could probably talk for 8 more because they are so cool. Obviously, I'm going to get them all, but I'm looking at extra undead builder packs for myself. I'm looking at extra tuberculi. I'm probably going to get a few extra of the Templar of Sir Elijah to mess around with that body. I'm going to get extras of everything, but these are the ones that I'm going to build at higher numbers. Extra of Maxilius to have more of those bones and play around with that. Yeah, lot of building potential here. And at the end of the broadcast, we gave 2 surprises. So one of them was those dead heads that I showed during the broadcast tonight. But we also mentioned that the Necronominus wave was so large. There was a point that the all-in was like well over $700. And obviously we looked at that and said, okay, we don't want to go there. We don't want to do that. We're going to scale this back. So the idea of being able to have 2023 be the year of Necronominus and extend the kind of battle between the Order of Eathyron and the Congregation of Necronominus through the calendar year and into waves like All-Stars 6. That was a lot of fun to be able to hit people with. So All-Stars 6, that's going to be, we didn't say when other than spring 2023. That is going to be like All-Stars 5 Plus was. It's going to be a mix of fan-voted reissues along with some brand new pieces. Those brand new pieces are things that we built out and planned during the process of Necronominus. So it's going to feel very much at home with this and very much like an extension of what you're seeing here. Basically, if you like what you've seen, we've got more coming. I'm going to answer a few more questions, and then we're going to call it a night. I'm going to take a drink first because I've been battling for 2 solid hours. This is training, right? This is training for G-Cons where Eric and I sit there for 6 hours and don't actually get up from our chairs and talk the whole time. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Can Maxilius fit on the horse? I mean he can fit. I don't think the robe is like slit down the middle, so it'd probably have to ride up, or you'd have to just slice it yourself. If you just took a razor and sliced it yourself so you could splay it the way you want, you could totally do that. But it's a 1.0 figure, so it'll fit on there and look fine. No background info on the 2 fused skulls that I know about. Yeah, Joe saying fused skulls are just creepy, nothing more. Now, will part 2 be the same size? It'll be a little bit different. It's All-Stars. It's not going to be the same amount of characters because it's going to be All-Stars figures in it as well. Thank you for the big pre-order window. You're very welcome. Yeah, we try to do what we can. As Cornboy says, we just try not to suck. My first big purchase for the new year from Visionary. Thank you very much, Visionary. And I agree with Really Big Kid. Great to see you here. Great to see you both here. I'm ready to place my order now. Thanks, Jeremy. You're very welcome, Nicholas. Joe says, keep an eye out for pics tomorrow, people. Yeah, we're going to be dropping a bunch of photos based on some of the things that people are asking for today. Yes, the next wave of All-Stars is the one that I'm saying is a follow-up to this. It's All-Star 6. That will be a follow-up to what we're seeing here. I didn't say it's the next thing coming. I said spring. I didn't say it's the next thing coming. I just said it's a follow-up. No brick something. Great question. Elijah's faceplates do not swap with the Dalrics because they're different shape helmets. So they both have swappable faces. And there's opportunities for us to do different faces in there in the future or for customizers. but they don't swap with each other because they are different shapes. The one on Sir Elijah just pops out. The one on Sir Adalric, because of the way it is, like you're going to have to pull the visor off, and part of the helmet actually comes off to get the face out, put the new face in, and then you're going to re-snap the helmet. So it's more of a complex type. I mean, it's going to be easy to do, but it's more of a complex configuration to go together. So they're not perfectly interchangeable. Is Maxilius' hood attached to his cloak? Again, I believe it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a separate cloak. I mean, a separate hood like some of the third-party people do. Okay, let's see. Torgan reissue. That's not one we get requested very, very much. This is the Wave of My Dreams. First, I'll be actually pre-ordering instead of waiting for on BBTS. Very cool. So I think with that, I'm going to call it an evening, and I'm going to thank all of you for sticking with me for over 2 hours tonight, 2 hours and 15 minutes. Crazy, far past Sir Gerard's bedtime. As a reminder, I will not be here next week because I will be watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but I want to wish all of you a very, very happy Thanksgiving and a start to the holiday season. Please be safe. We need you all back here in the weeks to come, because that first week that I am back, that first week after Thanksgiving, I am going to dig into the lore of Mythic Legions. We are going to have a first look at the Rise of the Dark Four, Volume 1. That is the Mythic Legions book that I have been teasing in a number of ways for a while. I did a reading of that. I showed some page layouts at LegionsCon in my breakout session. Very, very well received. I'm going to do that here for all of you. We're going to look at all of that same content. So if you dig the lore, if you like me talking about this stuff, hell, if you like me reading bios the way that I did tonight, we're going to have a whole lot of that the week after Thanksgiving. I hope to see you here. Once again, thank you everyone for checking this out. StoreHorseman.com. Get your orders for the Necronominus Wave In. Even though it stretches all the way until January 15th, you don't need to wait till the last minute. Get those orders in. Thank you all for doing so. We'll see you soon.